I'm the bad guy. I'm the, I'm the, I'm the bad. I'm the.
Welcome to Across the Gridiron, and I'm your host, Eddie. I'm going to break down some games, and of course, I'm not alone. I've got my hot take, partner with me, Matt, who's going to be breaking down some of the games with me as well. So, Matt, are you ready to break it down?
Absolutely, Eddie. Great to be back. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, so before we get into it, don't forget to grab that, subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and also put your comments in, so let us know, where you're watching us from, as well, because that will really be cool. Cool. So let's start with the crazy one, right? Steelers against the Ravens. This game had literally everything. This had so much excitement. And the way that I looked at this game, like the Steelers, the way they were matching up and down, it's like, when you're going to like a party or something, and then you're waiting for like a meal to come, and then you keep teasing, the menu and like, oh, the menu is gonna be great, like, where's the menu? Like, where's the food? And they just keep teasing. So that's how it felt like the Steelers. They were marching up and down the field, but never getting into the red zone. And I've never seen a game where, all they did was kick field goals. And, we were talking about field goals, last week and how important that was. Well, it was as if the NFL was listening to us because you
Yeah,
have
well,
two teams, one team just kept missing field goals with Tucker, and then another team kept nailing field goals with Boswell. Um, what did you make of that game? So Steelers won 18, Ravens 16. No touchdowns for Pittsburgh, all field goals. Russell Wilson threw for 211 yards. Lamar Jackson struggled with just 162 yards and a pick. And the Ravens were 3 and 14 on third downs.
yeah, as as you said, it was a bit of a crazy game. I mean, I will correct you slightly. You said it was a game that had everything, but it didn't. It didn't have a Steelers touchdown, right? So it literally did not have everything. Yet they won. I mean, yeah, look, it was a fascinating game for that reason. I mean, look, the way I look at, let's start with the positives before we go in hard on the Ravens, who we've been bigging up for the last couple of weeks. But so let's start with some of the positives for Pittsburgh. For Pittsburgh, look, they won that game due to a pretty outstanding defensive display. You know, they came up against a five-star offense, yeah, and limited them to two touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know, any defense that does that against an offense as strong as Baltimore's, that as well as forcing three turnovers, is going to win that battle. And it's, fair play to them. You know, the Steelers as a team and as a defense can handle Lamar Jackson better than most. But yeah, we'll get into that. The concern that I would have with Steelers, as you were saying, is their offense was not really much better than okay, right? So as you're right, they marched down the field, as you were saying, but they won this game on field goals. They were 0 and 4 in the red zone, right? And that nearly cost them in Q4. They had the first and goal on the five, which eventually led to an interception. And if it wasn't for what I would consider a bad play call on that final 2-point conversion right in the game, they could have tied this game,
Yeah.
right? Baltimore deserved nothing from this game. That's what they got, but they were one bad play call away from actually getting a tie,
Mhm.
right? And then you would, they have the depth to actually maybe go on and win that overtime.
Yeah.
So it was very much a positive defense from Pittsburgh, but again, still a little bit left to be done on the offense. Certainly when it's converting, they're going to struggle to, they are a team that are pretty much a shoe in for the playoffs. The Steelers, their offense has to improve if they want to go deeper.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers, is the signature of Mike Tomlin's, team. He builds it on defense. He's a defensive, coach. So he knows exactly how he wants those games. And if they suck you into playing their style of game, you're gonna lose, right? Because they're gonna constrain you. You can go up and down the field, but you're not gonna get into the end zone, the way that you want. And they'll, relegate you to 3 points, right? And if you don't have a kicker that can kick it, into the upright, then you're really, really struggling. And I think it was redemption for Russell Wilson as well. The situation that in the Denver, was you were beginning to wonder whether he had lost it, right? And you're beginning to think whether the end has come. And it kind of shows that quarterbacks, and we talk about this all the time, that sometimes we praise quarterbacks too much, and we almost forget how important to build a team, right? We say that defense wins championships, and you can see a Steelers team that defense looks like a championship level defense. Now we just want the offense to be functional. Don't make mistakes. Russell Wilson, just, make the passes that you can, keep the game alive, run with your feet, do the things that Russell Wilson does, back in his Seahawk days, and then you've got a chance. Now for the Ravens, I'm beginning to have some concerns about Lamar winning the MVP now, because you know what it's like, when you get to that time when people are voting and everyone is looking at where the team is. And if you're the fifth seed, I don't care what your numbers are. People are going to be looking for a team who are, higher up on that seeding, as the MVP. Maybe Josh Allen really has a shot now, considering his team are 9-2, going into the last stretch. But the Ravens have to pick it up. They can't afford to drop, games like this.
No, no, 100%. I said at the beginning, let's start on the positives on the Steelers before we go in hard on the Ravens. And, let's do that. I mean, we said last week when we were talking about Jackson for MVP, and, you're right. After a performance like this, he may no longer be the favorite. But one thing we said is actually the next 6 or 7 games is going to be big for Lamar Jackson MVP, because he out of his next sort of 6 or 7 games, he's got a lot of them are against winning teams, and 2 of them were against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Now it's fair to say he's failed the first test. Not just him alone, but the team failed that first test. Now he struggles against the Steelers.
Yeah.
Right. He's now, as a starter, he's now 1-4 against Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
but his QB rating in this game was only 66.1. Whereas for 8 consecutive games, it was been 100 plus. So something's clearly not right. Every team in every sport has what we call here in the UK a bogey team. Yeah, there's always a team that you struggle against, whether it's just the occasion or the fandom or pressure or history, whatever it is. There's always a team that people struggle at. And the Ravens, well, let's say the Steelers seem to have the Ravens number. So the Steelers have won 8 of the last 9 matches against the Ravens, and all of them have been decided by a single score. Right, so this game is just traditionally a bit of a nail biter until the Steelers run away with it. I mean, I got this stat from Neil Reynolds at Sky that since 2008, 27 of the last 33 games have been decided by one score between the Ravens and Steelers. So this is a game that's always close. But on games that are close, you rely on your offense, really have to step up and make those plays and make the difference. And they weren't able to do it. And things just didn't work yesterday. It was on Sunday. They had 3 turnovers, 2 missed field goals we talked about from them normally. Well, but last season, very accurate Tucker. They had 12 penalties that set them back 80 yards. They almost went out of their way to lose that game. And there's just other things, just odd play calling.
Yeah.
Right, we've waxed lyrical in the past couple of weeks about the options that Derrick Henry now gives to that offense, right? And their running game, whether it's through Henry or Jackson, is huge. But out of their plays, they threw the ball 33 times compared to a rushing of 19. They gave the ball to Henry 13 times. They had 13 carries. And that's just not good enough. And when you have a defense that has struggled this season, like they were one of the worst teams in sort of pass rushing defense this year, the Ravens. They stepped up a little bit today, on Sunday. They actually, the back line actually stepped up and made some important plays. Had a couple of turnovers, but that's just very bizarre play calling. Why they didn't stick to their strengths.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. But anyway, let's go to a team that blew another team out, right? The Lions beat Jacksonville Jaguars 52-6. They laid the smackdown. Absolutely laid the smackdown on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jared Goff threw for 321 yards, 4 touchdowns. Lions defense allowed just 128 total yards in the whole game. It was touchdown galore. Like literally, the Lions went touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, nil. Like, like literally, you could make a rap song out of what they did against Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, is Jacksonville Jaguars that bad, or is the Detroit Lions really that good?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a great day to be the punter for the Detroit Lions. Probably the easiest weekend you will have in your life. I mean, I mean, it's a combination of the both of two. Sorry, excuse me. The Jags are limp,
Yeah.
right? If their coach hasn't been fired yet, by the time this goes out, he could well be. I'd be surprised if he lasts the season. Since they've lost Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones has come in, they've turned what is, and early this season, the Jags were games, but they were losing close games. They just couldn't get over the line. Now
Yeah.
you've taken Lawrence out of that team. It's just got from bad to worse for them. But when you rack up a score like that, when it's a history making performance, you've really got to look at the off. You've got to look at the positives. You've got to think about how good Detroit were. And I'm pleased for Goff. He bounced back from this 5 interceptions last week against Texans to a perfect game.
And he still
400
won. 5 interceptions and still
and
won.
still won. Finding a way to win. Is he's now the only QB in history to have multiple 400 passing yard games with a perfect rating. So he's doing incredible. So fair play to them. I mean, I just want to read out some of these stats because, as we said, this is a history-making game for for the Lions, and I got these sort of these are all the achievements. This is all the history. This is everything that they broke in this one game. The most total net yards in a game in franchise history. The highest margin of victory in a game in franchise history. The most first downs in a game in franchise history. The most touchdowns in a game in franchise history. The second most points in a game in franchise history. And they became the first NFL team to produce a touchdown on each of the first 7 drives of a game since the New England Pats in 2007. Right. That is all in one game. So you've got to look at a combination. Yeah, I mean, you've just got to tip your hat to Jared Goff, to the offense, and to Dan Quinn. They are no longer dark horses. They are one of the favorites for the Super Bowl as things stand. In fact, in a lot of places they are the favorite.
Yeah, I mean they're legit contenders, no question about that. You've got Amon-Ra, in that team. They've got a good balance in their running game, with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and they've got a stud, in their defense as well. The thing that only concerns me is that they are blowing teams out, right?
Mhm.
Almost on a regular basis. Now, it's good to do this in the, regular season. Can you do that in the playoffs? Is this the only way that you know how to play, right? So they haven't had a lot of close games, right? And sometimes you need a bit of practice on those before you get into the playoffs because most playoffs games are going to be close games, right? You're
Mhm.
not going to go blow, teams out, by 20 points or so. That's the only thing that I look at the Detroit Lions and I say, yeah, they're great, blowing teams out, but is that playoff football? Are you getting the right kind of preparation for playoffs?
I mean, we talk about it a lot in football here in the UK. The term gets used a lot, flat track bully,
Yeah,
right? They are winning the games they're supposed to win.
yeah,
And it's sometimes like the Texans when they're giving up, 5 receptions, they're still winning a few of the games where they shouldn't win as well. But it will be interesting to see what happens when they come across an elite team,
yeah.
not a struggling team without a quarterback. So yeah, look, all credit to them at the moment. It'll be interesting to see. They are favourites, but they haven't had again. It's not the AFC, right? You don't have the AFC. You've got the Chiefs and the Bills, which we'll come on to soon, and you've got the Ravens. There isn't that level in the NFC, so they are not coming across those teams yet, and they might have to wait to the playoffs for that to happen.
Exactly. Because I'm looking at their schedule here. The only team I can see in their schedule that could potentially cause them problems is the Bills.
Mhm.
But other than that, they're playing, lots of winnable games. They play the Colts, next. They should win that game. They play the Packers, I mean, that's a division game, so sometimes that can be close. They play the Cardinals as well. They play the 49ers that I think, they're not going to make the playoffs. I don't know, we're going to talk about them later. So, yeah, you might wait till the playoffs to get really tested.
But momentum's key in sport, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We see it in every sport. Winning mentality breeds wins, essentially, doesn't it? So you see the exact opposite. What happens with your beloved Cowboys? It's hard to stop losing sometimes. When you get that run of form and you get that, I mean, they must be feeling great. The guys in that locker room, that entire the entire franchise must be going to work every single day thinking they're on top of the world, right? So, yeah, no, fair play to them. They are favourites now, I think, certainly after the game we're going to talk about next.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, you break all those records, you deserve all the credit.
Yeah, yeah. Let's enjoy in time in the sun, right? Let's talk about our next game, right? Because we build this game up, when we're doing our predictions about rivalries, right? And boy, did it deliver. We're talking about the Bills and the Chiefs. The Bills took down the Chiefs 30-21. Josh Allen threw for 228 yards, ran for 43 more, didn't turn the ball over, right? While Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, started with a pick, ended with a pick, had just 198 yards. Amari Cooper. Oh my goodness. Every time I see Amari Cooper, I have this feeling, like when you've dated someone, right? And then, it goes wrong. And then that, oh, that could have been the one. And then you see, how with some other dude, and you're seeing them regularly and you're just thinking, oh my goodness, if only, right? Um,
I'm, I'm, I'm assuming you're giving that analogy with a door fairly closed, so your wife can't hear about any of the ones that have got away. I'm assuming that she is safely in another room.
I'm not talking about myself.
Oh, okay. It sounds
I'm
like you're
just
talking from
giving,
personal experience there, Eddie.
I'm just giving an analogy.
I sounding close to the bone, that one, Eddie.
I mean, Amari Cooper changed lives, for Dak Prescott when he went to the Dallas Cowboys. Because Dak Prescott was trending, in a losing season when the Cowboys traded for Amari Cooper from the Raiders. And everyone was like, you're trading a number one, your first round pick, for Amari Cooper. And he just came in and it was like this. And I think the Bills were very, very smart, getting him out of the Browns because, they thought to themselves, well, we've let Stefan Diggs go. But for me, right, I don't think there are very few players, wide receivers in the league that run routes the way that Amari Cooper does. He's always open and he's great with his hands. So, what do you make of that game, right? How did you see that game?
Well, firstly, as a Dolphins fan, I have mixed feelings about this game because obviously we don't like to see the Bills win, but at the
Yeah,
same time, their unbeaten record maintains for another year. So thank you very much to both. Yeah, pleased about that. But look, I think the Chiefs, Bills, or you want to bill it as Allen Mahomes, or however you want to build this game, it's turning into an epic rivalry.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that Buffalo came in to, again, the defense had to step up and do a job on Mahomes, and more importantly, do a job on Kelsey. Because if you take the weapons away from any QB, then they're going to struggle. They're going to try and force it. And that's where we saw with the interceptions. I mean, Kelsey was like tragically quiet.
Yeah.
2 passes for 8 yards. Right. You know, whether Taylor Swift's keeping him up at night or not, who knows? But that is, for someone like Travis Kelce, those numbers are shocking, really, for a man of his quality. And yeah, they just got it done. And again, I go back to play calling, and we talked a little bit about it in the Ravens game, where they made a couple of questionable calls, especially about 2-point conversion when they tried to when what's name Jackson, tried to run the ball without really giving him any other options, and it just failed, and they lost a game. This time you've got 4th and down with not much time left on the clock. If you try and punt it, you basically got enough time for Mahomes to come back at you and try and win the game.
Yeah.
What you need to do in that situation is you put the ball in the hands of your best player, not just the best player in your team, the best player on the pitch, and potentially the best player in the league. And Josh Allen, he gets it done. You know, so, you know, look, they are an incredible team. They are certainly in the question certainly in the running for AFC champions, potentially Super Bowl contenders as well. The only thing that I would say is that they are against the Chiefs. They are 4-1 in the last 5 games in regular season.
Yeah.
So he says, okay, great. So they've got the Chiefs number. They're 0-3 in the playoffs, right?
This is the one that counts.
Exactly, the one that counts, right? And I can guarantee Mahomes is sitting there thinking, because he said at the end of the game when he went up to Allen, they hugged it out and say, "Yep, we should do this again, brother." He's saying, "Yep, seeing the players, we're not going to beat you again." Right?
I love it.
I mean, look, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I mean, if the Buffalo going to beat them again, the defense has to come up.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, they did. I mean, they gave up 21 points, which sounds like they gave up quite a lot of points, but that's the 3rd lowest that the Chiefs have got all season.
Yeah.
So they did a great job at neutralizing or minimizing Kelsey, restricting the weapons from Mahomes, and then you've got a QB in Allen, one of the best in the league at the moment, who can march down and make those important plays when to get your team over the line.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I'm loving this rivalry, you know, and for a while we weren't sure whether it was really gonna become a rivalry because, you know, Josh Allen was a little bit up and down, but I think, you know, that game for me, I was so excited. I'm not even a Bills fan. I'm not even a Chiefs fan. You know, my team is not doing very well right now, which, you know, we do
Oh,
know.
really? You've never said any?
We do know a thing or two, you know, about teams that, you know, like to struggle. You know, I was saying to you that I met a Sheffield Wednesday, you know, fan, you know, the other day, while I was out in London, and he was actually at that game, you know, the playoff game, that the Sheffield was down by 4 goals and then came back, you know, to win, you know, with penalties.
Oh, I
Um,
was there as well. Sport can make you feel all sorts of emotion. I was emotionally drained after that game. I'll tell you.
uh,
Uh, Anybody who's watching this don't know what we're talking about, just basically Google search Sheffield Wednesday, Peterborough, or the Miracle of Hillsborough. It was absolutely incredible. In our version of the playoffs, 4-0 down after the first game to come back and win 5-1. Never been done before, may never be done again. And yeah, I'll probably hopefully feel the same way when Dolphins go unbeaten for the rest of the season and claim the Super Bowl title in February. But I think that's less likely to happen.
Yeah, he was a wreck as well. But that's it for this section, you know, of our podcast. Stay tuned because get some hot takes. We're gonna do touchdown and turnovers, and you don't want to miss that.
I'm the bad guy. I'm the